My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to another episode. I'm Jeff Wilson, and today, how to make money on basketball and hockey, soon to be Hall of Famers. This is an important part 2 to my last episode. Hopefully you saw my last episode where I talked about players in baseball and football who were about to make the Hall of Fame, and I tracked their card prices leading up to them getting into the Hall of Fame. And what I found was a pattern that is possible for any sports card investor to make money on. The pattern was that we saw a spike in the card prices consistently across baseball players and football players when it is announced that they had made the Hall of Fame class that year. Not when they got inducted, but when it was announced. And that was not what I was expecting. I was expecting, before I looked at all the data, that when the player actually got inducted into the Hall of Fame, when there was the big ceremony, when they got on stage and gave the speeches, that induction ceremony would cause their card prices to spike. But the induction ceremony, at least in baseball and football, had relatively little impact on the card prices. Rather, when we saw a spike occur was when it was announced that player made it into that year's Hall of Fame class. Typically, the announcements of who made it into the Hall of Fame class that year happen early in the year, whereas the actual induction ceremonies happen later in the year. I thought that this was really interesting data. I looked at it across baseball, I looked at it across football, and one of my recommendations on my episode was to buy Derek Jeter cards. And the reason why I recommended that was because Derek Jeter is a pretty surefire bet to make baseball's Hall of Fame next year. He is eligible next year. I would expect him to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think most people are expecting him to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So if Derek Jeter follows the same pattern as the other players that we looked at over the last several years followed, he will see a significant spike in his card prices when it is officially announced that he has made next year's Hall of Fame class, and that announcement would occur at the beginning of next year, early next year. Now, some people commented to me. Some people commented on the YouTube comments. Some people emailed me. Some people posted or reached out to me through my Sports Card Investor Facebook group or my Discord chat, and they said, yeah, but Derek Jeter's card prices have already gone up significantly this year. So are we actually going to see that same spike with Derek Jeter, or has the market gotten more savvy to the fact that this pattern has occurred in the past, and the market is therefore anticipating it happening again? So we're actually not going to see as much of a spike because the market has already driven prices up well before this announcement is going to take place a few months from now. That's a great question. And so I went back and looked at the data. Let's look at Derek Jeter's card prices. I'm going to bring it up on the screen here for you watching on YouTube. I'll describe it to you if you're listening on the podcast. This is Derek Jeter's 1993 Topps PSA 10 eBay sales history. And I went all the way back 7 years because I thought it would be interesting to look at his card prices when he retired as well. So I drew a yellow vertical line on the screen to show when Derek Jeter actually retired in 2014. And what you see is that Derek Jeter's cards, these 1993 Topps PSA 10 cards, were consistently trading for around $100. Selling on eBay and auctions for around $100 for all of 2012, all of 2013. When he retired in 2014, they went up some. They got up to about a high of $150, and they stayed up there for a little while, and then they came back down later in the year, and in the following years, they came back down to $100, and they stayed around $100 again. In fact, they stayed around $100 all the way up until the beginning to middle of 2018. So his cards really, the price of these cards from 2012 through 2018 stayed right around $100, except for a spike that occurred when he announced his retirement. And that was a brief spike that occurred right when he announced his retirement, but then they quickly came back down to $100 again. Well, what we have started to see, though, is in the last 12 months, his prices have started to consistently climb. In late 2018, his prices went up and up and up. And in fact, they broke the $200 level in late 2018. And for most of 2019, they have been trading somewhere between $200 and $250, and they are creeping above $250 right now. So it is true that Derek Jeter's card prices have gone up significantly over the last 12 months. We've seen the prices go from $100 all the way up to a run up of about $250 over the last 12 months. The question is, though, are they going to go higher? And when it's announced that he makes the Hall of Fame early next year, are we going to see that same spike around the time of the announcement that we saw across all of the other baseball and football players that we looked at in my last episode? My answer to that is yes, I think so. Even though his card prices have already gone up significantly over the last 12 months, I think that pattern is going to continue. And I think when that announcement occurs early next year that he's officially made the Hall of Fame, his card prices will spike, probably just temporarily, and they'll come back down again, but I still think they're going to spike. So I recognize the fact they've already gone up a lot, but I still think that's going to happen. And if you look back to Mariano Rivera, who I focused on a lot in last episode, and I'm bringing his pricing graph back up here as well. The first line on his pricing graph is when the announcement that he made the Hall of Fame was, and that's when you saw that huge spike in his card prices, when his card prices went from the mid $300 all the way on up to over $500 briefly when it was announced that he made the Hall of Fame. Well, if you look at the year prior, his card prices a year prior to that announcement were down at $200. And then as that year went on, they went up and up, and they started to cross over $300, and then they started to get into the low $300 shortly before the announcement that he made the Hall of Fame was made. So Mariano Rivera, saw a similar buildup as Derek Jeter has. Derek Jeter's buildup has been a little bit more significant. Derek Jeter's buildup has been bigger than Mariano Rivera's buildup was, but there was a buildup nonetheless across both players. And Mariano Rivera still had his card prices spike significantly, despite that buildup having already occurred somewhat. I think we're going to see the same with Derek Jeter. Can I guarantee it? No. Should we be cognizant of the fact that his cards have already gone up a lot this year? Yes. But do I still think he's going to spike? And do I still think Derek Jeter makes a really good investment today? I do. And if you're savvy and you want to get in and use this as an opportunity to make some profit and to get out, you should do the trick that I found and that I talked about last episode that some savvy investors have been doing. And that is that these investors have anticipated when the announcement about the new Hall of Fame class is going to take place. They've anticipated the date that announcement is going to take place. And they have set up eBay auctions that have started prior to that announcement. And they've set the end date of the eBay auctions to either end the night that the announcement is going to be made of who made the new Hall of Fame class, or the day after the announcement is going to be made about who made the new Hall of Fame class. Those investors were the ones who got the biggest bang for their buck, the biggest return on their investment when the new Hall of Fame class was announced, because they already had their auctions live and running, and they were ready for the reactionary folks from the hobby to get onto eBay and start buying that player's cards because they just saw that player made the Hall of Fame. So now they want to rush out and buy that person's cards. And as I talked about last episode, this is a very reactionary hobby. People hear the news and then they go online and they buy the cards. Much like people see how a player does on Sunday, they see the quarterback who throws 4 touchdown passes, and then that night, that player's card prices on eBay go up because people are reactionary in our hobby. They see something and then they immediately go online and bid. And so if you're savvy and you get your auctions in ahead of time, anticipating what is going to occur when people hear the news that is going to come out, you can actually take advantage of that phenomenon. So anyway, that's a little bit about Derek Jeter. That's a little bit about Mariano Rivera and the reactionary nature of our hobby. But what I really wanted to talk about today was basketball and hockey. And is this same pattern that we found in baseball and football, is this same pattern going to continue into basketball and hockey? And before I get into the data, because I've got a lot of data here for us to look at. Before I get into the data, two very quick announcements. The first is I am running a new contest. This is a contest you do not want to miss because I'm going to give away the rookie card of one of my favorite players from an investment standpoint this year, Lonzo Ball. I'm giving away a BGS 9.5 gem mint graded Lonzo Ball. This is a optic hollow, a 2017 optic hollow. And I'm actually really high on optic hollow cards. I think they make a good investment because, as you have seen in some of my previous episodes, I think that Prism silver cards are really getting their print runs run up, which makes me a little concerned about Prism silver in the long run. But optic hollow, their print runs have not expanded to the same degree that Prism silver's print runs have expanded. I think that optic is a really quality set. And I think that optic has the opportunity to appreciate a lot, especially if people start to soften a little bit on Prism and Prism Silver in the years ahead because of their print runs. So this is a card I like a lot. 2017 Donruss Optic Hollow Lonzo Ball 9.5 BGS. I'm giving it away completely for free. Here is how you enter. As you know, as you probably know, because I've talked about it on past shows, I have a Discord chat server. Discord is a totally free and really easy to use chat program. In my Discord chat server, there is a new channel we've added. The new channel is called Giveaways. It's called Giveaways. When you log into Discord, there is a channel menu on the left, and there's now a Giveaways channel. You have to log into my Discord chat server, go into the Giveaways channel, and in that channel, there's an announcement posted saying, I'm giving away this card. And to enter the contest, all you have to do is click one of the little reaction emojis. You just have to add a reaction emoji below my announcement. Just click a reaction emoji and you will be entered into the contest. It is that simple. While you are there, while you are in my Discord chat server, please take a moment to go into some of the other channels and see what people are chatting about. It has turned into an awesome chat server with tremendous conversation. It's segmented with a bunch of different channels, so you can just go into what you like, football or baseball or basketball or whatever you want to talk about. There's channels there for anything you could possibly want to talk about. There's also a buy, sell, trade channel if you want to post cards you're selling or wanting to buy or trade through the Discord chat server. Completely free to join. And if you have not joined or if you forget how to get into it, the link is in the main menu bar of my website, sportscardinvestor.com. Go to sportscardinvestor.com, click Discord chat in the main menu bar, get into Discord, go into the channel with the contest, go into the giveaways channel, and react to the post with an emoji, and you will be entered to win this Lonzo Ball BGS 9.5 optic hollow card. I'm excited to give that away. The second announcement is that while you're on sportscardinvestor.com, my website, to get the link to the Discord chat server, check out some of the new articles that are up there that have been submitted by viewers of the show. There's a new one that just posted today that's called Let's Talk Hockey Card Investing. And it's a great article. It gives you a nice little primer on hockey card investing overall. And then the author, James Phones, also breaks down the Toronto Maple Leafs. He also breaks down the Toronto Maple Leafs and the different players to invest in on the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a really good article, some good insight there, so make sure to check that out. Okay, let's get back to the topic at hand. And the topic at hand is Is it smart to be investing in next year's basketball and hockey Hall of Fame classes today? And the reason why with basketball this is particularly important is because next year's Hall of Fame class is completely off the chart. Next year's basketball Hall of Fame class is Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett. And then you've also got some other good players like Chris Bosh, who becomes eligible for the first time, and Chauncey Billups, who could potentially get elected as well. So you're going to have a monumental basketball Hall of Fame class next year. Does it make sense to invest in them? Are we going to see the same pattern with basketball players that when they're announced for the Hall of Fame, their card prices are going to spike? Let's look at the data. So what I did was I went back and I looked at previous year's Hall of Fame classes in basketball. Now, this year's basketball Hall of Fame class honestly wasn't that exciting. Probably the most exciting guy in that class was Vlade Divac, and there just wasn't enough sales of his cards to really be able to look at any pattern. Last year's basketball Hall of Fame class had some more prominent guys: Ray Allen, Grant Hill, Jason Kidd, and Steve Nash. And of those four, Steve Nash has had the most transaction volume on his cards. So let's take a look at the historical prices of Steve Nash cards. So calling this up here on the screen on YouTube. I actually went back to 2004 all the way through 2019 to look at the sales history of Steve Nash's 1996 Topps Chrome PSA 10. There are a few points of interest on this particular graph. First of all, there was a big spike in the summer of 2007. That is a curious spike. Now, he was awesome in 2007, but he was also awesome in 2005 and 2006. In fact, he won the MVP award in 2005 and he won the MVP award in 2006. In 2007, he did not win the MVP. He came in, I think, second behind Dirk. He had maybe his best season ever in 2007, but he didn't win the MVP. The Suns did make the playoffs. They won the first round of the playoffs, but they lost in the second round, I believe, which is the same thing that had happened the year prior in 2006. So I'm not real sure why this crazy spike in his prices happened in 2007. And for those of you on the podcast, his cards were trading at about $50. And then all of a sudden in the summer of 2007, they spiked to over $200 for a while. And then finally came back down to earth, but remained still around $100 for the next year or so. I'm not sure what it was that year in particular that caused his cards to go crazy, since he had been good for several years before. But nonetheless, his cards came back down to around $50 to $75, and they stayed there from 2009 all the way through 2015. And then you started to see a little bit of a run up. Now, what happened in 2015 that caused the prices to start to go up a bit was that he retired. And if you're looking at the graph on YouTube, there's a little yellow line towards the top of the graph. That first yellow vertical line indicates his retirement date. So you can see there was a little bit of a spike in prices as he announced his retirement. The second yellow line on the graph, which occurred in early 2017, was when it was announced that he had made the Hall of Fame class. And there was a spike in his card prices. Not as dramatic of a spike as we saw with some of the baseball players and football players that we had looked at in the last episode, but there still was a small spike in his card prices. His cards were going from the lower to mid $100 range, and then they started to go into the mid to upper $100 range, spiking at around $200. The second spike that occurred, which actually in his case where they got to $200, the last vertical yellow line on the graph, a little bit of a bigger spike actually was when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So in the case of Steve Nash, his actual induction ceremony actually did cause a bit of a spike in his card prices. His announcement into the Hall of Fame caused a little bit of a spike in his card prices. So not huge spikes with him, but nonetheless still following a pattern that an announcement about getting into the Hall of Fame is going to help card prices and cause card prices to go up. Let's go back to the 2016 class and let's look at Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson. Those were huge names, obviously, that got inducted in 2016. I think those guys are important to look at because they are probably most like the guys who are going to get inducted this year in terms of name power and star power. Here is Shaquille O'Neal's 1992 Upper Deck PSA 10 eBay sales history. So we went all the way back to 2004 to look at his card prices as well. The first vertical yellow line on the graph is when he announced his retirement. His card prices were actually between $100 and $200 for these 92 Upper Deck PSA 10s around the time that he announced his retirement. He got a small spike from announcing his retirement, not that big of a spike, but a little bit of a spike from announcing his retirement. Then if you fast forward to 2016, the first vertical line in 2016 was when it was announced that he had made the Hall of Fame class. And the second vertical line in 2016 was when he actually got inducted into the Hall of Fame class. There was absolutely a spike when both things happened, both when he got announced to be in the Hall of Fame class as well as getting inducted into the Hall of Fame class. But there was quite a buildup up to that point. So the spikes were not as significant because over the course of 2015 leading into 2016, his cards did build up significantly, which is similar to what we saw with Derek Jeter and similar actually to some of the guys going in this year, which we'll talk about in a minute. But nonetheless, even though there was quite a buildup leading up to the Hall of Fame announcement, when the actual Hall of Fame announcement occurred, we saw a little bit of a spike. And then when he actually got inducted, we saw a spike once again. So that pattern did hold true for Shaquille O'Neal. Let's look at Allen Iverson. This is Allen Iverson's 1996 Topps Chrome PSA 10 eBay sales history. When Allen Iverson retired in 2013, which is the first vertical yellow line on the graph, no change in his card prices. He didn't go out in a grand fashion. He was offered a D-League contract. He turned down the D-League contract, and then he just sat around for a while. And then that following fall, I think he was hoping he was going to get re-signed by an NBA team or something. And when he didn't, he finally just retired kind of at the beginning of the following NBA season. And so because it wasn't maybe, he didn't really necessarily go out in heroes fashion, there was no spike due to his retirement. But when it was announced that he had made the Hall of Fame class, guess what happened? There was a pretty significant spike. And that's the second vertical yellow line you see on the graph. A significant spike that occurred when it was announced that he had made the Hall of Fame. And then the third yellow line on the graph indicates when he actually got inducted into the Hall of Fame. A little bit of a spike occurred after that as well. So Allen Iverson saw a nice spike from getting announced into the Hall of Fame, saw a little bit of a spike from getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I think it is fair to say that the pattern is continuing in basketball. Maybe not to the same degree as we saw in baseball and football, but the pattern is continuing that when guys get announced into the Hall of Fame, they are going to see a spike in their card prices. And with basketball, it also seems that when they get inducted into the Hall of Fame, there's also the possibility for a little bit of a spike. So what does that mean for this year's class? What does that mean for Kobe Bryant? What does that mean for Tim Duncan? What does that mean for Kevin Garnett? I think it means it's a good time to buy their cards. Now, that said, their cards have already gone up a lot this year. In fact, Kobe Bryant's 1996 Topps Chrome PSA 10 was selling for about $1,000 back in January. It's selling for about $2,000 now. It has doubled over the course of this year. It's doubled in 10 months. And his regular Topps PSA 10 was selling for about $80 back in January, selling for about $160 now. So it too has doubled over the course of this year. Now, some of that I think is the run up of anticipation to the Hall of Fame, but some of that is that basketball cards in general have gone really crazy this year. We're seeing across the board as new hobbyists and investors and flippers are getting into the market that basketball cards across the board are going up. So it's not just the Hall of Fame anticipation that's driving his prices. Some of that is just more people getting into the basketball card trading game in general. Tim Duncan has seen similar things, just not quite to the same degree. Tim Duncan's 1997 Topps Chrome PSA 10s, they were going for about $100 at the beginning of the year. They're about $140 now. So not as big of an increase as Kobe, but still an increase. And then his his regular non-chrome 1997 Topps PSA 10s were going for about $17 back in January. They're about $30 now. Kevin Garnett, he has not had nearly as many cards sold or for sale, so I couldn't pull an accurate trend line for him to see what he has done. But I would imagine, in general, his cards have probably gone up, in value over the course of the year as well. Does that mean it's too late to get in on them? No, I don't think so. Just like I don't think it's too late to get in on Derek Jeter, even though Derek Jeter has gone up significantly over the course of this year. I still think there's opportunity to buy these guys, and I still think you will see a bump when it gets announced that they will be in the Hall of Fame next year, and then you'll probably see another bump when they get inducted into the Hall of Fame later next year. So something to keep in mind. I'm personally going to be buying some of these guys. And I think from an investment standpoint, they make a pretty good investment for you to do the same. So last but not least, let's talk about hockey. Hockey is, it's going to be interesting to see. Does this same pattern play through with hockey? And this year, hockey's Hall of Fame class, much like basketball, we didn't have the big names that we sometimes do. So I went back in time and I looked back to last year. Last year, we had Martin Brodeur inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I thought he would be an interesting guy to look at. And then a couple of years prior to that, we had Eric Lindros. So those are the two guys I pulled from hockey to look at. Let's look at Martin Brodeur. This is this is his 1990 Score Canadian PSA 10 eBay sales history. And guys, I have absolutely no idea what to make of this. This looks like an absolute Canadian hockey mess. This thing is as volatile as the sport of hockey is. I have no idea what to make out. If you're listening on the podcast, what you are seeing is a graph that goes all the way back to 2010, and literally his card prices are oscillating somewhere between like $25 and $75, and they are spiking back and forth between $25 and $75 throughout the year, every year. Like boom, 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 boom. Like all of a sudden they're $25 and then all of a sudden they're $75 and then all of a sudden they're $25 again and all of a sudden they're $75 again. And this pattern is going on for all 9 years that I charted. And his actual announcement that he made the Hall of Fame, which is the first yellow line in the graph, and his induction into the Hall of Fame, which is the second yellow line in the graph, did not really help him, did not stop this crazy pattern from occurring. So I do not know what to make of his card prices, but we did not see the pattern with him that we saw in the other major sports where the Hall of Fame announcement made a large difference in card prices. Let's look at Eric Lindros, his 1990 Score PSA 10. His cards have been more stable, not nearly as volatile. Of course, they're just less valuable in general. His cards are not worth very much money. The first yellow line is when he got announced into the Hall of Fame. The second yellow line is when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. There was a little bit of an impact in his card prices after he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Since the time he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, his card prices have gone up some compared to where they were the last several years. The announcement of him making the Hall of Fame didn't have a lot of difference. They went up maybe a little bit after the announcement of him making the Hall of Fame. But we certainly are not in hockey, at least with these two guys, we are not seeing the same depth of pattern that we saw in basketball, baseball, and football. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if the Hall of Fame is just not as, well known or as well tracked in hockey as it is the other major sports. I'm not sure. Some of you who are huge hockey fans out there, you may have opinions on this, and I would love to hear your opinions in the comments. Leave your comments on YouTube in the comments section, or if you're listening on the podcast, please go to my Facebook group or my Discord chat server where you need to go anyway to enter the contest, and leave your comments in there because I'm really curious what you have to say. And speaking of hockey, do not forget to check out the article, Let's Talk Hockey Card Investing, which is now live on my website, sportscardinvestor.com. It's a really great article. And if you don't know a whole lot about hockey card investing, it's going to give you a nice overview and get you ready for it. If you know a lot about hockey card investing, you're still going to enjoy the article because there's a great analysis in there of the various players on the Toronto Maple Leafs from an investment standpoint. Do not forget to go onto the Discord server to enter the contest to win this Lonzo Ball. Again, go to sportscardinvestor.com, click the Discord chat link, and then go into the giveaways channel to get entered into that contest. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. I hope you have enjoyed this two-part episode analyzing when is the time to be investing in soon-to-be Hall of Fame players. I hope you can put some of this information to good use and make some money for yourself over the course of the next year. Thank you all for watching another episode of Sports Card Investor. I'll see you back on Sunday with my next one. Take care.